Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So it has been quite some time since I have uploaded a Destiny 2 build video. So today we are doing Arc Titan specifically. I have two builds for you, two for the price of one. Um, and then the following build will be Solar Titan with Kepri's Horn. So those will be the two builds that I plan on doing. It does kind of suck we don't have a new exotic armor piece, because that would definitely give a little bit more credence. And just talking about it, a few things right here. You will not see a build with Finality's Augur. You just won't. I decided not to get either of the new dungeons. I don't like the armor. I don't really care about the weapons either. So there really is no reason for me to run the dungeon. And the exotic is another solar heavy. Um, Fun fact, in case you do not know, we have not gotten a single Arc exotic to come from a raid, dungeon, or exotic mission since Garden of Salvation. Garden of Salvation was the last time we got an Arc exotic from any of those sources. That is including returning exotic missions as well. And no, I don't count, like, Risk Runner came out initially before um, Divinity. So, yeah, every single Arc exotic that we have gotten since then has come from the Season Pass. With the only exception being Edge of Concurrence, but not all Guardian classes can use that. Uh, at least in the past. And no, I don't count Cloud Strike because it doesn't have an exotic mission tied to it per se. And Ergo Sum can be any element, but every single other exotic has been from the season pass, which kind of sucks. Also, Lodestar, I'm not particularly interested in that exotic, so at least for Barodryad, at least based on the catalyst, there is realistically no reason to use this if you're a Titan, especially on Strand. There just isn't. If you're a Warlock, sure, but on Titan, is Barodryad useful in any capacity? No. Realistically, the best weapon for you if you are a Strand Titan is either a Strand 1-2 punch shotgun or a Strand weapon with Pugilist and Swashbuckler. Okay, so first, the two builds here are going to be an arc damage only build. You should not be using this build solo. You're not going to be able to survive on your own. This is generally speaking for Arc Titan, but Arc Titan is a little bit more difficult to make it work solo. However, I do have a separate build if you do want to rock it solo. Now, here let's talk about a few things about this build, about general Arc Titan stuff as we get into here. Let's talk about Storm's Keep here. Storm's Keep is antithetical to Arc Titan. It is the exact opposite of realistically what you should be doing with Arc Titan. Like, Arc as a whole is the mobility subclass. I do find it exceedingly weird that Storm's Keep essentially makes you hunker down in one spot. It feels a little bit strange. It's, It's a little bit strange. I don't think we have an equivalent to this situation in the entire game, realistically speaking. From what I remember, I don't think we have a true equivalent to the Storm's Keep Arc Titan situation. It's kind of like adding a mobility-based thing to Void. But, like, if Bastion was sort of baked in. Like, it doesn't make any sense to bake Bastion, to, like, bake a mobility-based thing into Bastion when Bastion requires you to be stationary. And Void and Solar help you massively stay stationary. Meanwhile, Arc, you really should be moving. That's one of my big issues with Storm's Keep is it doesn't feel right to use. I kind of wish it would consume your barricade to have like a Juggernaut type shield in front of you so you could move while having this. And also made Cerebral Brand as antithetical to Speed Booster as well. It definitely feels like, hey, we want you to hunker down for damage, but also like Thunder Crash wants you to move. Like, and I'm sorry, but like it doesn't make too much sense, Stormskeep, with the rest of Arc Titan's kit. So if I'm being perfectly honest, would I realistically use this fragment here in general gameplay for Arc Titan? No. I would realistically only use this realistically for damage. It's just because Touch of Thunder and Knockout are just too good. And they help and they do not hinder your speed or hinder your mobility. And also, this forces me to use Rally Barricade, essentially, when usually I use Thruster. Thruster being extremely helpful, because usually you have powerful attraction, you get it super fast, and I usually have recuperation on. Now, let's talk about Bolt Charge. So while I'm talking about Bolt Charge here, I'm gonna throw up a clip of me messing around with Bolt Charge. First and foremost, Bolt Charge does not heal you in any way, shape, or form. It does not. I have heard a bunch of misconceptions about Bolt Charge, and this is one of the more prominent ones that I've actually heard, surprisingly enough. Bolt Charge, in of itself, does not heal you. There is an artifact perk that says defeat arc debuff targets grants Bolt Charge. The boost to his rapidly defeating arc debuff target spawn an orb of power and heals a small portion of health. That is for general arc debuffs. And I'm actually not completely sure if the lightning discharge is counted as an arc debuff. Blind. This also does this for the large part applies to blind. Keep that in mind. That applies to blind. And we do have an artifact perk currently that lightning bolts, the arc titan bolts deal more damage. So just keep that in mind. And also we do have something else called defibrillating blast. Stunning a champion grants maximum stacks of bolt charge. Triggers an arc bolt that heals you and jolts combatants that it damages. So can it heal you? Yes, but only with the season pass. I mean, only with the seasonal artifact. My worry about this is once this seasonal artifact goes away, Arctine is going to go back to being useless, essentially, in terms of solo play. Like, there is no reason currently, like, even right now, if you don't have those things unlocked, there is no reason to run Arctitan when you're solo over Strand, Solar, Void, and even Stasis, honestly. Because Stasis is pretty good now, actually. Especially with how high the Frost Armor damage resist can go. And Strand obviously has the Banner of War, but it also has Woven Mail and Sever. We'll talk about the rest of the class in a second. Now, Bolt Charge does not heal you. However, there are some interesting quirks that I've noticed about it. One, technically speaking, Bolt Charge does proc Knockout, which I thought was extremely strange. I don't know why this is. I wonder if it's coded as melee damage. I think it's a little bit strange that it procs Knockout when Knockout says critically wounding a target or breaking their shield infuses your melee attacks with arc energy. Increases your melee range and damage for a short time. Defeating targets with melee attacks makes you amplified and restores a portion of your health. Again, so restoring your portion of your health only applies to melee attacks. That's why Bolt Charge, even though it procs Knockout for some weird reason, it doesn't, even though, like, yes, technically speaking, it procs Knockout, it's not going to heal you at all because it's not a melee attack. So that is something to keep in mind. By the way, this is including, like, if you melee a target and it triggers the Bolt Charge, I'm not completely sure, but, like, it's your melee that's healing you. It's not the Bolt Charge. It's your melee that's healing you. I would like this to be changed. I do think it would be an interesting change to let Bolt Charge heal you, or like, maybe trigger health regeneration. I think giving you a chunk of health would be a little bit too broken. But triggering health regen, I think, would be fine. I think it would also help Storm's Keep a lot to help you stay behind that barricade, because currently you can't really stay behind the barricade. So that's something of note. Here I'm going to throw up an image of my Atheon damage numbers. I did use a pretty similar build to this. Yes, I did a lot of damage. This was in basically 2.5 phases of damage for Atheon. But the key part here is I needed one of the Warlocks to drop me a healing rift. It was just impossible to stay alive during damage phase without at least a Warlock healing rift. I will say Storm's Keep and Void Titan together are extremely broken. Like, if you have one Arc Titan and a Void Titan, it is extremely good. I have to be perfectly honest there. So I think Arc Titan is like really, really good in teams, but I didn't care about using Arc Titan in team settings. I wanted to use Arc Titan extremely like solo. And let's talk about a few quick things here. By the way, this stuff is very, very important here, so that you have a good idea of why I did the decisions that I did. So let's talk about first the whole argument of Precious Scars. If you're struggling to survive, just use Precious Scars and Crimson or Red Death. I've never had to use that using any other subclass that includes Prismatic. Why should I have to use it for Arc? So also let's also discuss a few things here. Ionic traces are a little bit weird. They grant ability energy, but they don't do much else. That's more of a Warlock thing, but that's kind of like a little bit of a side note. They don't restore any health either. Now, here's my issues with Arc. It does, like, its whole 15% damage resist. It's a good change, but it needs to be increased. If I'm being perfectly honest, at least while Speed Booster's active, I think that'd be the great middle ground. The whole ads not targeting you as much. Is it? I think people think it's way stronger than it actually is. Because let's be real here, Always on Time has the same thing, and it's not actually like, does it work a little bit? Yes, but is it actually that big of a difference? No, especially considering how enemies throw AoE attacks. It doesn't matter if they miss you. It doesn't fucking matter. They can just throw the holy hand grenade, and you're dead. Like, let's just be honest here. Now, though that is like in no way, shape, or form is that dinky 15% as strong as Woven Mail, which Woven Mail has 40%, but also Strand has access to Sever, which massively reduces the amount of damage that enemies put out. I believe it's about 40%. This was actually really important for day one, and absolutely nerfing the amount of damage Tormentors were doing in day one Salvation's Edge. So, yeah, it actually has two things going for it. Stasis has Frost Armor. I would have liked to have them kept the fragment that restores a little bit of health when you pick up a Frost. Like when you pick up one of the Stasis shards. They removed that. However, Frost Armor gains a massive amount of damage resist. Solar has Restoration Cure. Void has Overshield and Devour. Is the whole dinky 15% damage resistant enemies missing you a little bit more? Anywhere close to any of the rest of these? Absolutely not. It's not. That's my problem. And also, guess what all of these subclasses have that Arc does not? A subclass specific weapon perk that heals. Or does something similar. Rhyme Stealer gives you Frost Armor. Slice severs a target, reduces their damage. Obviously, Solar has Heal Clip, even though technically speaking, if you look at the Heal Clip perk description, it's not subclass specific necessarily. It grants you Cure, but it doesn't require a Solar kill. I would like to see Heal Clip on more elements other than just Solar. I think it would help like Prismatic as well. And Void has Repulsor's Brace. Arc has Jilty Feedback, doesn't damage resist or heal. Volt Shot doesn't do it either. Eddie's Current doesn't do it either. And Rolling Storm doesn't do it either. Despite Arc having probably, I think it has the most amount of subclass specific perks, none of them do any sort of damage mitigation at all. I would like, maybe Unrelenting should get changed to be Arc based. I do think the issue with this would be, it would be an issue on older weapons, but I think Unrelenting should be changed to maybe work with Arc a little bit better. Maybe, I don't know. I think Unrelenting would be the perfect perk to do that with, because I think Unrelenting needs to be on every single element, considering we have so many options. Now, that is my whole spiel done and dusted. That's my whole spiel done and dusted. Now, this build here is strictly for damage. You're not going to be able to survive with this. You just aren't. So, Touch of Thunder, Pulse Grenade, Ballistic Slam is the melee I decided to use here to call back to the old Arc 3.0 subclass stuff where Thunder Crash was tied to Ballistic Slam, back when Arc was actually better. Pulse Grenade, we're using that because Touch of Thunder, Pulse Grenade's great, and generate Ionic Traces, but also the damage increases over time. We're going to be showing this on the Lost Sector boss Carl. And then we have this to increase the Pulse Grenade's duration. These two are just required because to make moving stats a little bit better. This one is also kind of nice to give you a little bit more bolt charge options. Now, I'm using Succession here, but you can probably use any other energy weapon here. I'm using Tarnished Metal here because I like Demolitionist Volt Shot. I actually like the Scout Rifle, but Posterity with Volt Shot Frenzy is a really, really good option as well. And I'm using Thunderlord here. I did literally use Thunderlord, Pulse Grenade, and Thunder Crash in the other damage test. So, I have these active right now. Just so y'all... Actually, we'll remove these. I like making builds that last past the season and can be used at any point in time. Also, y'all can see my mods here. Stats, Tier 9, Tier 9. Tier 9 Discipline, mostly for the Pulse Grenade. And reducing that cooldown, doesn't matter that much, no. So, yeah, also, if y'all want to see the fashion, bada bing, bada boom. Now, we are going to go in here, keep in mind, we're not going to be able to survive that well at all. As you can see, we got a lot of bolt charge there. We're not really going to be able to make use of it, though, since we don't really have a knockout or anything like that. Okay, so Carl here, we're going to try to keep him stationary. As you can see, 13, 14, 15, 16, you know, it caps out at 1647, but as you can see, that did a lot of damage. And we got max bolt charge right there. So as you saw there, our barricade actually was able to, as y'all can see again against Carl, wherever he's at. You see that damage does ramp up. It does cap out at 1647, but I'll say Ballistic Slam, I kind of miss using it. I will say in higher end content, should you realistically be using Ballistic Slam, maybe. I would suggest if you're going to rock Ballistic Slam, I would massively suggest you use Knockout. As you can see, yeah, Pulse Grenade lasts quite a bit of time. So we're going to return to orbit here. So y'all can kind of see that Pulse Grenade is really strong. But your damage rotation is going to be Thunder Crash, Pulse Grenade. While you're running raid, that Pulse Grenade is going to be doing damage. The Thunder Crash Shockwave is going to be doing damage. And when you get to your spot where you're doing damage with the rest of your team, you will then put up your Storm's Keep barricade. Not before that. Storm's Keep, Thunderlord, bada bang, bada boom, easy win. And while you're shooting Thunderlord, at least with Atheon, you get your grenade back pretty fast. Don't throw your grenade, just keep firing Thunderlord, because you're kind of going to reset its fire rate when you throw your grenade. So I would heavily suggest you just keep firing Thunderlord. If you get your super back though, super grenade, bada bang, bada boom. And you don't, damage ranges are not really long enough necessarily where you need to keep recasting your Storm's Keep. So just keep that in mind that I don't really recommend doing that either, because you're sacrificing your fire rate on Thunderlord. Alright, but there's the damage setup, and now time to show you my actual Arc Titan. More so like my ad clearing setup. This is my fashion. What do y'all think of this fashion? I don't know. I think I want to use different legs, but let me know what y'all think about it in the comments below. Do y'all have like a different leg suggestion or a different let me know what y'all think of this fashion in the comments below. I'm a little bit skeptical. Now, for this build here, we're using Storm's Keep and Knockout. We are using Seismic Strike. Seismic Strike is just a little bit easier to get off than Ballistic Slam and Thunderclap. Thunderclap, you kind of have to hold it, and you're also stationary, which is not really a great idea. Arc just doesn't have any tools for you to realistically be stationary. And then we are not using Ballistic Slam because it's in the air, and I don't really want to do that. It does grab Bolt Charge, though, so honestly, if you want to, you can use Knockout, Touch of Thunder, and use Ballistic Slam, because Ballistic Slam is going to give you that Bolt Charge. We're using Seismic Strike, mostly because for the blinding is great, and while you're amplified, the blind radius is increased. So that's actually kind of nice here. And we are using Flashbang Grenade. Now, usually, y'all know me, I usually use Arc Bolt Grenade, and then I usually use Spark of Shock, but the issue here is we don't really have enough fragment slots to really be running that. So, cough cough Bungie, please give Arc a 5th fragment slot. That would help Arc out massively. Please. We're using Flashbang Grenade to blind enemies, literally, so we don't have to deal with that as much. Storm's Keep, obviously, Knockout, bada bang, bada boom. So that's what we're using. And then for our fragment slots, we're using, of course, the stereotypical 2. We are using Arc Weapon Final Blows, have a chance to generate Ionic Trace. And collecting Ionic Trace grants you a stack of Bolt Charge. That second part is what makes it worth taking the negative 10 strength. Also, Ionic Traces do grant a little bit of ability energy, so that is kind of nice. Then Spark of Beacons, while you are amplified, your special heavy ammo final blows create a blinding explosion. The reason why we're using we are using Spark of Beacons when we did not previously, both of the weapons we are using to generally add clear are both arc. Now I am using Forbearance with Unrelenting Chain Reaction. I am not using it with Impotent Assassin Chain Reaction. Soul Drinker does heal. Soul Drinker, I don't think it's really been nerfed. Soul Drinker is still quite strong. Unrelenting is pretty good. I will say, if you do not have Vow of the Disciple, I would massively suggest you grab Forbearance from Onslaught with Unrelenting Chain Reaction. Do keep in mind with that setup though, don't build into your melee, build into more of your grenade. So instead of Flashbang, use like Pulse Grenade or something like that. You can still use Flashbang though. Just have a little bit of higher discipline instead, which I dropped my discipline to raise my strength, because my strength is what we're going to be kind of really going off of. But instead of Soul Drinker, it's a different perk called Indomitability. That perk on the Onslaught version, dealing damage with a light subclass element is going to give you grenade energy, darkness gives you melee. So it's going to give you more grenade energy instead, but Unrelenting is still pretty good. It's one of the, I believe it's the only arc weapon currently that can get enhanced Unrelenting and some like a chain reaction or volt shot or something like that, and any type of elemental explosion. I believe the other weapons that can get Unrelenting on them and an actual good perk in the other slot, I believe they are. I believe it's Bequest. I believe both of them are swords, if I remember correctly, or weapons that don't really benefit from you doing that. And for the machine gun, I'm not using this one. We're actually using Wellspring Jolting Feedback. If you are not using Storm's Keep, if you're using Touch of Thunder instead, use Wellspring Rolling Storm. I do suggest using Wellspring Rolling Storm. I do not think you need to be using this if you have Storm's Keep on. I actually suggest Wellspring Jolting Feedback. And again, because this arc is going to have a chance to generate an Ionic Trace, you could also swap this out for Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target or defeating a target with Bolt Charge creates an Ionic Trace. You could use that instead of this as well if you don't want to do as much blinding. We're using blinding because, again, in the Season Artifact, at some point, you're going to get some health for blinding. Keep in mind that boost is going to come from the Tomb of Want. I believe we're not able to unlock it quite yet, so do keep that in mind a little bit. Now, you might be asking, HotSauceMan, why the fuck are you using Bastion? This is also another reason why we are boosting up our strength. Bastion's a little bit interesting with Knockout specifically. You're actually incentivized to melee, and actually this thing can cook. I think people underestimate, but this thing can fucking cook, mate. Now, it has Breakthrough, which stuns unstops. We can already do that. We are literally have a blinding melee, blinding grenade, and now a blinding weapon, and now an unstop weapon. Do we really need this? No, but I guess it's nice. The key part is Saint's Fists. Rapidly fires 3 spreads of pure force after a successful melee hit. It doesn't need a kill. This weapon gains increased damage, reduced charge time, and improved reload speed for a short duration. Hitting a target with most of the pellets in a burst increases melee damage for short duration. So what I recommend doing with this is shoulder charging to blind the beefier target, then Bastion because it's gonna have that extra thing. Since you will have knockout then. Knockout. Bam, 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 bam. This thing, Bastion can cook. Trust me, Bastion can cook. And again, these are the modules I'm using. Now, another interaction here we have with this build is Hands-On and Curse of the Falling Star. Hands-On generates, gain bonus super energy on melee kills. We're using Special Ammo Finder because of Forbearance specifically. And Curse of the Falling Star, melee final blows while amplified grant you super energy. So that's quite nice. That's a pretty big deal. Now, Forbearance, you don't have that much. It doesn't hold as much ammo, which is a little bit of an oof. But Chain Reaction does improve ammo reserve, so that's kind of nice. Now, for this setup, I am actually going to be showing this in the Nether. Do keep in mind, any sort of health regeneration is nerfed in the Nether. Knockout doesn't work as well, but Forbearance is going to help keep us alive for the most part. Do keep in mind that husks are a massive thorn in the side of Titans as a whole. I would suggest if you are struggling in the Nether, I actually recommend rocking Le Monarch and Bubble. Le Monarch is still good despite the thing, but Bubble lets you cheese a lot of the little encounters in the Nether. So just keep that in mind. Oh, hello. Perfect. So we're gonna activate a Storm's Keep. Once you have that charge ready, let's go to stun him. As you can see, we're fucking cooking. And see, we still have Naka active. As you see, that thing cooks. That cooks. We're not gonna take any boons here, because I want to give it accurate representation. But as you saw, Bastion cooks. So the reason why we have a machine gun as our heavy is because Grims and Harpies. Again, we have jolting feedback here. Hey, the Spark of Beacons is pretty strong. Pretty strong. I have not gotten an adept version of any of the weapons, so we're not doing that because I know what that encounter is. Yeah, Soul Drinker isn't quite as strong in here, but that's fine. Well, we are going to Storm's Keep this. I would say try to use Forbearance as much as you can. The Husk are probably going to kill us pretty fast here. We are probably going to die here. Yep. I will say, if you can get the machine gun with the reload masterwork, that's realistically what you're going to want. You don't really need range or stability necessarily with this machine gun. I'd suggest, if you can, get reload masterwork on this thing. Okay, again, we're not picking up any, just so I can show you all the super energy, we're just going to use it up here. Okay, well, actually, we can't show it with this one. Okay, because we can't show it with that one, we're not gonna do that one. So we're gonna, okay, the thing we're about to do, you had to pick up a crystal and whatnot, but, which I usually don't like doing that one, but I know it can spawn ads, so I'm not really gonna care about. Also, the other issue with Ballistic Slam is, it's kind of weird about trying to hit flying enemies, so it's a little bit easier to hit flying enemies with, Solar Charge. We're going to drop this here in a second. Yeah. We want to melee one of these. Okay, we're Amplify. Watch how much super energy we gain. Hold on a second. A nice chunk. A nice chunk. And again, while Amplify, we get some super energy. It's actually quite a bit. It's actually quite a bit. So yeah, that's how that build kind of works. So kind of see how that works. I would suggest testing it out for yourself. Forbearance is really good. And again, this is without artifact mods, so this can't be used past this season. Which I feel like a lot of people don't really consider when making. Okay. Here's my deal. I like builds that I can use past the season. I like those builds. Like my shotgun build, my triple shotgun build that I still have saved. Right? I still use this build every so often. This build is extremely strong. I love using it. Helmet Save 14, this is my GM build. I love using this, especially this season. I used the Strand build that I showcased like a long time ago. I do use my triple shotgun setup. Though I usually use bubble instead of this, I use my prismatic build. I use a lot of these builds past their season. This build we're going to be augmenting. I'm going to be replacing this with my Capri's Horn setup, so do keep that in mind. But yeah, let me know. I'm sorry. I do apologize for the little bit of a longer beginning section. I'm not going to put a timestamp there because that beginning section is quite important if you are not familiar with a lot of the damage mitigation stuff in this game. But anyways, on that note though, thanks for tuning in, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.